Okay, I'm a minute late because I had to collect myself. I'm just going to be really honest about this. The testimony that we've gotten this morning is really brutal. And I want to talk about all of it and talk about it all, particularly in the context of the allegations in this case, the crimes that Trump is accused of. But I also don't want to mistake anything that's happening here as salacious or sexy or amusing. And I think we all kind of started the morning in that place. And what has just happened is like 100% not that. So let's get to that in just a minute. Hello, I'm ECM. Welcome to Resistance Live for the 7th of May, 2024. As always, I'm coming to you from occupied Tongva territory here in Southern California. Today, for our visually challenged viewers, I am wearing a white turtleneck sweater that is sleeveless. My hair is pulled back. I have my thick gold hoops in. I am a pink-skinned, green-eyed, dirty, blonde-haired woman. I'm sitting in front of a plant and a standing lamp and a chair. Okay. Stormy Daniels is on the stand right now. And just a few minutes ago, while we were getting ready to come on the air, she finished a portion of her testimony about her encounter with Donald Trump in 2006. And there's so many things about this testimony that are just like really disturbing. And I will tell you all that from the perspective of where we started this morning, when I know there was a lot of excitement about Stormy Daniels taking the stand today, and even I had my moments of like Schadenfreude and excitement about the testimony, the story that she has told this morning on the stand, which for all intents and purposes can be backed up by credible witnesses. This is one thing that the prosecution has been very good about today, is they have made clear that she made phone calls from Trump's hotel room to her neighbor. She told the media person in charge of Wicked Entertainment, which was the porn company that she was on contract with, that she was meeting with him. The story that she has told about this encounter is actually a story that walks like right up to the edge of assault. And I will just tell you all that I don't think there's kind of anything about this that is amusing at this point, particularly because, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this, what is very, very clear from the testimony this morning was that she had a dissociative episode once she walked out of the bathroom in his hotel room and he was in his underwear. For those who don't know, dissociation is a trauma response that shows up particularly in people who have previously been subjected to trauma and sexual trauma in particular. I have, unfortunately, a very intimate personal familiarity with dissociative episodes as a result of things that happened to me when I was a kid. Her testimony was that as soon as she walked out of the bathroom and she saw him sitting on the bed in his underwear, she blacked out. And she clarified that she wasn't drugged and she wasn't drunk, but she felt drugged. And that the next thing that she remembered was being on her back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. And that she didn't say no, but she didn't say anything. And that she just wanted it to be over. And that there was an obvious power imbalance in what was happening. And that when it was over, her hands were shaking so badly that she could barely put on her shoes. And, all I'm going to say is that one of my most recent, no, he didn't drug her, Scott, but she felt drugged. This is my point. I want everybody to understand that this is what dissociation feels like when you are having a PTSD response or a trauma response to an immediate event where you leave your body. Okay. So for those who don't understand dissociation, what happens in a dissociative episode, and I know this from personal experience, is that it feels like you are no longer present in your body. And it can mean different things for different people. For some people, it means their entire body goes numb. For other people, it actually is an out-of-body experience. For me, my experience of this when things were happening to me as a child was that while it was happening, I would be looking out the window, because this happened routinely in someone's office. I would be looking out the window at a tree, and there were birds that would hang out in the tree. And I would lay there and I would look at the birds and listen to the birds while what was happening to me was happening. And it was like I wasn't there. This is very similar to what Stormy Daniels is describing happened to her when she realized what was about to happen with Donald Trump. And I don't want anyone anyone to take this testimony through the lens of the idea that this was a consensual encounter. Now, is the line of consent fuzzy here? Yes. Did she say no? No, she did not by her own testimony. But is it very clear to me that she was so dissociated that she wasn't in a place where she was capable of consenting? Excuse me. Yes, it's 100% clear to me. And I just want everyone to get that this is going to be something that she is going to be cross-examined about viciously. And it is not going to play well for any of us who are trauma survivors. It's probably not going to play well in front of this jury. Trump, by the way, has already mouthed an expletive from what we think is bitch about her testimony about joking around with him in advance of this when she was still very clearly like in a playful mood and present to what was going on in the room. All right. And so one of the things that I want people to understand is that when you are in that freeze response and when you are dissociated, you are not capable of fighting back. It is as if your body is saying, I am doing this so that I can survive. And it is a mechanism of your brain to shut down to protect you. All right. That is exactly what she was describing in the testimony this morning. And I feel so horrible for this woman. I mean, I don't know how anybody can read or hear about this and not have a moment of just extraordinary compassion for what happened. And she is trying very hard. This is very clear to figure out how to explain this experience to herself. She testified immediately after this and said, I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I was ashamed and I didn't stop it. And I didn't know how to say no. I mean, I don't know how you can hear that and not have it like get you in the gut, right? It also runs entirely contrary to what they are going to claim about her, which is that she's a grifter or that she made it all up or that, she was in it for the money, right? This is not the way that you respond if you're in it for the money, right? And they're going to go after her memory because she's claiming that some details weren't present to her until after the fact. That is also a trauma response. I just really, really hope that the mainstream media does the right thing here. Like they need to get psychologists who have done work on sexual assault survivors on cable news today to talk about this. Like they must not allow this to just go on as if this is normal because this is not a sexual encounter, so to speak. And I'm just going to say there's all sorts of other things about the way the story has been told that just smack completely of Harvey Weinstein. It's like the abuse of power, showing up to the hotel room, he's in his pajamas, right? She thinks she's having dinner. It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. I want to just address one thing because I said over the weekend on Progressive Coffee Hour to our Patreon subscribers, reminder, if you like this work, please become a subscriber over at patreon.com/resistance live to ask me questions before every broadcast and join us for Progressive Coffee Hour. They started as little as $2 a month. That's almost a nickel a broadcast. One of the things that I want people to grasp here is that there were real questions about whether or not Stormy Daniels was going to be called, or Karen McDougal were going to be called as witnesses here. And I personally didn't think the prosecution needed them. I still have questions about why she's on the stand. My expectation here is that the decision was made that they needed her testimony to shore up the whole story, to tell the story of how we got from A to B, from her story to the payoff. All right. And I think that that's a judgment call and they've made it. And I'm not going to critique it after the fact because I feel like the prosecution is doing, frankly, an extraordinarily good job. I don't doubt their judgment here, but I am going to tell you that I think this cross-examination is going to be horrific. And it's Susan and Chellis who's doing it because they always make women do the dirty work against other women because they think it's going to soften the blow. But I'm going to tell you it's going to be awful. And I hope Susan and Chellis liked her legal career because if she does what I think she's going to do, her career is going to be over. But I will tell you that I think what they're going to do here is they're going to go after Stormy Daniels for her memory, for her credibility, for being a sex worker, and it's going to get really gross. So I hope that there's a reason why the prosecution has made this decision from a factual standpoint to string the whole story together. Because putting her through this for very little evidentiary point, I'm waiting to see what the end point is going to be. It's just going to be very hard to watch. So the reason why I said that, and please don't be sarcastic with me on the feed today, like this is a really rough day for anybody who's a trauma survivor. The reason why I said that about the lawyers is because Susan Nichelis is the only person in that courtroom right now for the defense team who seems to have a solid reputation still in New York City. She's a very reputable defense attorney. And I'm just going to tell you that I think that if she does what I think she's going to do today, that part of her career will be done. And I have a legitimate reason to believe that. So, like, don't be nasty to me in the comments today. That's my request. Okay. Don't be nasty. Don't be sarcastic. Like, I'm here giving you my best advice and the best information through the lens that I have as a New York lawyer and somebody who's lived through a lot of garbage in their life that informs where I come from. Just be kind. All right. So, somebody asked a question on the Patreon feed about why she was a quote unquote surprise witness. I'm going to remind everybody that one of the things that has happened in this trial is that because Trump has been bashing witnesses in violation of the gag order all over social media, the judge has not required the prosecution to tell the defense in advance the next 3 witnesses, which is the way that this would ordinarily go. You would know the witness order. Okay. They didn't find out that Stormy Daniels was going to testify today, apparently until last night. Trump posted something on Truth Social this morning that was only up for about a half an hour that was like, we didn't even know the witness until last night. Very clearly, his legal team was like, take that down. You've been threatened with jail. If you mention witnesses, take it down. And he did. But one of the things that I want people to also understand here is that, it danced right up to the gag order line. It did not necessarily cross it because it didn't mention her by name. It did bash the judge. The judge is not protected by the gag order by his own making. And so it's not necessarily another gag order violation. But the reason why they didn't know who was coming next until last night is because of all the prior gag order violations. And you make your bed, you lie in it, right? He's the one who's been out there defaming witnesses and attacking them and threatening them in violation of the gag order. And that's why his team doesn't have advanced warning. There were objections this morning in court before she took the stand about what she was going to be allowed to testify to. And there has been a discussion already on the record this morning about the fact that Mershon was not going to allow explicit testimony about genitalia. I can't believe this is where we are with a former president and the next presidential nominee for the Republican Party. Lord help us. But this is where we are. And he has run a very tight ship so far this morning with Stormy's testimony about what he would allow and what he wouldn't allow in the context of the descriptions. Like, even when she said we were in the missionary position, there was an objection and that was sustained. So the only testimony that has been allowed has been around the actual act itself and that it took place, not the details of it. I'm just going to say, by the way, very wise choices here by the prosecution, because this is not salacious at this point. It's really just sad and disgusting. And I'm really glad that that's the means by which this has all come out. All right. I mean, I think that it's so painful, like watching, it's just so painful. I can't, I'm glad I have a therapy session today is all I'm going to say. And I know that a lot of sexual assault survivors are with me on that. Okay. So we'll see where this ends up. I'm just going to tell you all, though, I think Stormy's going to be on the stand for today and probably the rest of, there's going to be a break tomorrow because there's no court on Wednesday, but probably the whole day on Thursday. I would not be surprised. I actually want to say one other thing. I think the timing of this is brilliant because this woman is going to need a day off in between what the main testimony and also the cross-examination. And hopefully we will be in direct testimony for the remainder of the day, my Lord. Okay, so we did have an earlier witness today that was another document custodial witness from Penguin Random House. This woman, Sally Franklin, was up there to talk about quotes from Donald Trump's book. I do want people to understand that, again, the only reason why these custodial witnesses are having to testify is because the defense has not stipulated that this stuff should be admissible. She was called to the stand to testify about particular quotes from one of Trump's books. This was also, by the way, really good for them to get in advance of Stormy Daniels' testimony, because the testimony was about, for instance, the fact that when someone crosses you, you are vicious and vengeful and you crush them. There was testimony about the fact that he thought basically every woman on The Apprentice was game for the taking from him in terms of sexual come-ons and attempts to get them into bed. All of these are quotes in Trump's own language from his book. The defense tried to score some points by claiming there was a ghostwriter, but ghostwriters don't do that. I don't know. Again, I have to say, I don't know what defense they have. I can't see it. I don't know what they're even trying to do. that is where we are so far this morning. Now, I'm going to say one other thing. My expectation is that where we are going in Stormy's testimony for the remainder of the day will be around the payoff and about her conversations with Keith Davidson and what she was after. And there will be, at this point, God, if anybody is victim shaming here, you're getting instantly blocked. I'm sorry. I don't have any room for that here. I don't have any room for that on this feed. So here's your opportunity. Before, actually, I'm just going to find you right now and block you because I've just had enough. That kind of thing is just not happening here. And I'm not even going to do you the dignity of giving you the troll bell. All right. I'm going to say one other thing here. I think where they're going today is to shore up the totality of the deal. And that really is the valid reason for putting somebody on the stand in this environment and in this circumstance with this horrific testimony. I think what they're going to try to get to is that it was obvious that the money was coming from Trump and that the delay was because Trump wanted to wait until after the election and that she was trying in her best efforts to get some money out of the deal, which, by the way, I'm just going to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. This woman has had a very hard life, and I hope everybody's looking at this with like total compassion. Okay. Questions. We had a couple questions on the Patreon feed about deliberation and what happens in jury deliberations. By the way, I'm going to remind you all again, if this work is helpful to you today, if you want to support what I do here, please become a subscriber at patreon.com/resistancelive. It starts at as little as $2 a month. And I will explain to you all the nuances of what's happening in the trial based on your questions. Somebody had a question today about how jury deliberations work in New York or anywhere, and whether or not the jury will have access to the transcripts of the trial and the exhibits. Okay, so the way that this normally works is, yes, of course they have access to the exhibits. They actually usually have copies of them in the jury room itself. Transcripts are a different story. Ordinarily, the way that this works is if there's a question about the testimony, the jury foreperson sends a note out to the judge, and that testimony is then reread to the jury in the courtroom during jury deliberations by a clerk or by someone on the judge's staff. All right. And this is not unusual at all. One person may remember that the testimony said one thing, and another person on the jury may remember that the testimony said another, and they need to go back and clarify it. I just want everyone to understand that the jury will have everything that they need, and they, of course, have to make a decision on the basis of the totality of the evidence. So we're going to get somebody else here. This person may very well get a ding. Where are you? I'm coming to get you. Bye-bye. You're gone. Okay, that one's getting a ding because, we're going to do that one the justice it deserves. Okay. So that's how that will go. And I'm sure that there will be questions from this jury. And I'm sure that there will also be questions going forward, during the deliberations about the law. Often what will happen is the jury will say, could we have this instruction about the law read back to us? I just want to make it very clear. This doesn't happen in every trial. Sometimes the jury goes in, they vote, they know it's a guilty verdict instantly, and we're done. All right. But if there's a need here for additional readback of jury instructions or readback of testimony, that will be permitted by the judge. Okay. Somebody asked me to talk about narcissistic injury in the context of what we're seeing today. So I have a prediction for all of you, which is that Trump is going to violate the gag order between now and tomorrow morning. I honestly think there's no way around this because he has no impulse control. And what is happening today, as we've already seen with him calling Stormy Daniels a name on the stand, with his absolute inability to control himself, even this morning, in terms of what he was posting on Truth Social, that he is at this point experiencing what I think it's fair to say this, one of the worst narcissistic injuries of his life. She has described how she had no time for his BS. When she wasn't dissociative, she was knocking him down a peg because of his arrogance and his assumptions. I think that her testifying about spanking him, even in jest, is humiliating to him. And now there's testimony about the idea that he essentially used his power over her to force her to have sex with him. This is something we've already seen how he reacted to E. Jean Carroll in this context over and over and over again, which, by the way, I'm going to remind everybody has resulted in like $100 million in defamation damages. I would not be surprised at all to see him go after Stormy Daniels in the middle of the night because he simply can't contain himself. Narcissistic injury, for those who don't understand, is a moment where a malignant narcissist has what they believe about themselves fundamentally deep down exposed in a public way, where the deep belief, I often describe this as the dark pit of nothingness of a narcissist's soul, is revealed for all to see, okay? Because their worst fear is being exposed as worthless and nothing. And that, oh, by the way, is why the whole mask of mythology and storytelling and I'm so fantastic and I'm the best at this and nobody but I can fix it and all this other nonsense, right? All of it comes crashing down in these moments of wild public humiliation. It's very similar to what we saw in the aftermath of the White House Correspondents' Dinner when Obama cracked what would, for anyone else, would have been a very meaningless joke, right, about birtherism. For Donald Trump, that was a moment of public humiliation that predicted fundamentally like how we got here. Other moments that are very similar to this are the idea of what happened in that dressing room at Bergdorf's with E. Jean Carroll. Similar statements by his first wife about what took place in the aftermath of their divorce and her testimony about how he raped her. Like, these are events that for him are a revelation that he's nothing. And I think that from the standpoint of where we are, I'm just going to say something. Robin, she has changed her name to Stormy Daniels. That is her legal name now. I don't know why people care about this stuff so much. Like, that's what she prefers to be called. It's like such a minor issue compared to everything else that we're talking about today. The thing that I want people to understand is that that moment of narcissistic injury causes such rage inside a malignant narcissist that it's like almost like they're overcome to the point that they can't control themselves. So I think we are going to be facing down. I mean, I will be stunned. They're going to have to take his phone away from him and lock him out of the internet for him not to act out in response to this. And I just want everyone to grasp that. I said this in my article on Substack last week. You can go read it, newsletterwithecm.substack.com, about the fact that accountability comes in many forms, all right? And one moment of accountability is the public humiliation that reveals who he really is. And that is what Stormy Daniels has handed him this morning, albeit through the lens of an incredible set of traumas on her behalf. And I just think everybody should be looking at her as a hero. I mean, like, full stop. Because the bravery that it takes to get up and do something like this, let alone in these kind of circumstances, is remarkable. Okay. Let's see what else. Somebody asked a question about the end of the testimony yesterday in relation to the idea that there isn't a direct line between Trump and the payments yet. That's actually false. I want to clarify this. First of all, his signature is on the checks. Second of all, we've had an enormous amount of testimony at this point about the fact that he micromanaged every aspect of his money, including this morning. There were quotes out of that book that said that he signs every check. He reviews every disbursement that comes out of his accounts. So that there's no break in the chain of evidence, so to speak, here between the checks that were signed to pay back Michael Cohen and Donald Trump himself. The prosecution now, by my count, is about 5 pieces of evidence deep on that. I'm not worried about that. All right. And by the way, we still have Michael Cohen to come, I expect. So that will fix that. So don't worry about that. That's not an issue. All right. Final thing I just want to say today, because there was some breaking news in the Cannon case yesterday in the Southern District of Florida. Judge Cannon entered an unlimited delay on rulings on classified documents issues. She still has not delayed the Trump trial down there that was supposed to start in a week. Everybody is like, what the hell is going on down there? We all know what's going on. We don't actually really need to ask the question, which is that essentially she's giving him an okay, I'm done. Bye. I swear to God, some of you really like show your asses in the comments on days like this. Where I'm just like, do you not hear your internalized misogyny? Do you not hear your internalized misogyny when you go after a woman in the midst of something like this? Like, I mean, come on. All right. One thing that I just want people to be very aware of here in terms of the Southern District of Florida is that we don't need to ask why the hell is she doing this, because we know why the hell she's doing this. She's doing it because what she wants to do is delay the proceedings. That is a case. I agree with I think it was, it might've been Andrew Weissman this morning who said that case should have gone to trial last fall. And I don't disagree with that. We are seeing her kind of like knock down all of the deadlines in order here. And that is what it looks like. Nobody should be surprised by that. Okay. Final thoughts for today. before we all go on lunch break for the trial and we see what Stormy's been testifying about while we've been here. By the way, if you're here now, we got 2750 on the air right now live. Please hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel here on YouTube. It's free. I'm here 5 days a week, sometimes twice a day. And we're doing all this analysis. You know, I'm a New York-based lawyer. I used to teach at Columbia Law School. Now I live in Southern California and I do a lot of political consulting and all sorts of other things. But I'm here doing this analysis so you all understand what's going on. And we've been here for 7 years doing this, and you should join us. All right. Final thoughts for today. Please, in the lens of what we are looking at, view it from a trauma-informed perspective. Give Stormy Daniels her flowers, her credit for doing something that takes an incredible amount of courage. Remember that sex workers are workers. Sex work is work. She does not need to walk around with her head in shame. This is an incredibly difficult day for her. She's lived through a lot. And I will tell you that this testimony, in my view, is like stomach churning. I don't even, you can go back and watch the beginning of the broadcast if you're just joining us, but this is rough. All right. And I want everybody to see it through the lens of understanding that she is doing the work right now of bringing to justice, along with a lot of other women who deserve a lot of credit, like Fani Willis and Letitia James and many other people who have been involved, you know, E. Jean Carroll, right? Robbie Kaplan, people who have been involved in coming forward and helping to assure that justice is served here. Please see her through that lens, because this is really hard stuff. And I say that as somebody who testified against somebody who abused me. This is really hard. And it is a turning point in a life to get up on a courtroom stand and face down somebody who did this to you and tell the truth. And I just hope she gets her power back. That's all I'm going to say about it. I hope people stop humiliating her and making her the butt of a joke, and that she gets her power back. All right. Before I cry on the air, I'm going to let you all go. I will be back later on today, if necessary, with a second emergency broadcast. Sometimes we do double broadcasts in a day where there's a lot of breaking news for those of you who are new here. I truly hope that you all have a reasonable day. To all my fellow trauma survivors out there, please take care of yourself today. Do what you need to do to manage your own PTSD responses. God knows they're everywhere today. Chances are very high that I will be back this afternoon. All right, my friends, please don't forget to give this a thumbs up, hit the subscribe here on YouTube. And if you like what I'm doing here and this helps you, don't forget to become a paid subscriber. That's how I pay my team behind the scenes that helps make this broadcast run. And head on over to patreon.com/resistancelive. You'll also get early warning if I do a broadcast this afternoon that it's coming. All right. I will catch you all soon. Thanks for being here. Much love to our Patreon subscribers. You guys are my rock. And I will catch you all here very, very soon. And I'm also like live threading today all day. All right. Bye.